We are continuing today in Meretz Hashem in the fourth chapter, actually concluding the fourth chapter, Mesillas Yesharim. Today is Sunday, the 21st of Tishrei, October 16th, Hoshana Rabbah. So the Ramchal continues, this is Ve'im Tomar. Now, if you say that what we've said is correct, in other words, the Ramchal has made it a point of highlighting the idea that everything we do has an impact and repercussion. And there is nothing that occurs. There is no action that doesn't have a reaction and a result. And if that's the case, says the Ramchal Imkain, Midas harachamim lamahi omedas. Then ultimately, again, we speak about the fact that Hashem has compassion. What good is Hashem's compassion if at the end of the day there's repercussion or ramification for every action? Kevan shal kopon tzarach ledaktik badin al kol davar. Hatshuva, the answer is Vaday midas rachim hikiyumo shel olam shelo haya omed zulaso klal v'alpi v'afalpi kein ein midas hadin loke v'zel lefi ki lefi shuras hadin mamish hayr. So okay, so the Ramchal says like this. In reality, we have to try to reconcile this because on one hand, we spent an incredible amount of time speaking about the fact that there is a repercussion, ramification, and reaction for every single thing that occurs. And at the end of the day, there's an accounting for every single thing we do in life. But yet there's also midas rachamim. And how does the divine attribute of compassion go ahead and figure into all of this? So he says something very interesting. He says the way the world should work is immediately upon sinning, a person should be punished. Take off lechato b'liyam tanaklal. You committed an avera, there should be an immediate exacting punishment. V'gam sha'onish atzmo yeh b'charon af karoi l'mishim amrapi abori spark shemo v'shlo yitikon achet klal. And furthermore, again, the action should be swift. The punishment should be swift. It should be intense, reflecting the fact that one has transgressed the will of God. Not only that, but there should be no remedy for the chait, for the sin at all. In other words, so if the world was just operating als midas hadin, the divine attribute of justice, then ultimately, again, there would be immediate punishment. The punishment ultimately, again, would be swift, would be fast, would be immediate, and there would be no way to escape that punishment, no way to go out and remedy the sin. Because in reality, how could you undo that which is already done? Person chas v'shalom murders someone. Person chas v'shalom commits an act of immorality. How can you undo that act? Can you undo something that has already occurred? This is where the attribute of divine compassion comes in. So remember again, in the world of strict justice, a person commits an act. The act has an action, has a repercussion, a ramification. It brings with it a punishment. The punishment is swift. The punishment is, intense. And there's no way to undo anything that has been done. So herein lies the power of the divine attribute of kindness. He explains, he says, kindness, rachamim, it works the opposite of all three ways we just mentioned. Number one, the hainu, sheyutan zman lechotev lo yikachim min haaretz miyad kishachata. Number one, midas rachamim comes along, and what midas rachamim does is, the first thing that the divine attribute of compassion does is, it gives us time. It gives us time to have committed the sin. So instead of exacting punishment immediately, the midah of rachamim gives me time to turn things around. That's number one. Number two, number two is that the punishment is not all overwhelming and decimating. And number three, and number three is that through true tshuva, I have the ability to literally overturn the act, to reverse the act as if it has occurred. His lashon over here is uprooting akiras haratzon, uprooting and changing one's will, one's desire, ultimately gives one the ability to overturn the action. The hainu, shebiyos hashav makir eschata modabo, when a person recognizes what he has done wrong and he admits to it, umisbonin ha'ra'aso, contemplates his wickedness, v'shav and does tshuva, umischarit alav charot gemura, and truly has remorse, to make kara kecharotas haneder mamish, shumisnachim legamrei. I totally regret what I've done. I wish I never would have done it. And I have incredible pain that I did commit the negative act. But I pledge myself to be different, to act differently going forward. And I go ahead and I run away from that entire lifestyle, from that entire pathway of sin. This has the ability to literally uproot the act. So remember again, it happens to be very apropos that we're learning this piece also on Hoshana Rabbah, because here the Ramchal is describing the power of tshuva. The whole concept of tshuva, which again, not to delve too much into the weeds over here, but the whole concept of tshuva, where a person essentially is able to go through the different cathartic steps of tshuva, and if one does so, one is literally able to make it as if the sin never occurred. In the world of din, in the world of strict justice, such a concept does not exist. The whole concept of tshuva is rooted in the divine attribute of mercy. So this is incredible. He goes on, this idea, this ability to do tshuva, certainly again, is not a function of divine strict justice. Ach al kol panim hinu chesed shenu machish adin legamrei sheyesh bo tzad litlos shetachas haratzon shenitzratze b'chet v'ana shenena mimena ba'ata hanechama v'atzar. Okay, so Ramchal explains that again, the concept of tshuva is not totally contrary to din. Again, there are certain concepts that may be in alignment with din, but for our purposes, in our shir, again, what the Ramchal is pointing out here is something amazing. So the idea that I have the ability to do tshuva, so we're like contrasting two opposing forces. On one hand, the Ramchal went to great lengths to highlight to us the idea that at the end of the day, every action has a reaction, and nothing ever escapes. No action, no matter how small, ever escapes the judgment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Ramchal is describing din. So if that's the case, again, the Ramchal says, so what good is Rachamim? So first of all, Rachamim allows for tshuva. Divine compassion allows for tshuva. And tshuva, the power of tshuva, true tshuva, overwhelming tshuva, especially tshuva me'ava, tshuva done from love, has the ability to transform one's averos into mitzvos, or at least, to obliterate the averos. V'chein arichos hazman eino v'tarn alachet ela savlonos kitzas levtoach lo pesach tikun. Similarly, again, the other piece where Rachamim plays a role is that whereas according to din, a person commits an avera, there should be immediate and swift judgment and justice. So Rachamim comes along and gives us a little bit of time to get things together. Now, the time doesn't mean forgiveness. The time is just that it's time to allow me to get myself and get my life together. V'chein kol shar darchei chesed ke'inyan b'ra mizaka abba o miktzas nefesh kechol nefesh hamuskar b'divrei chachamim. Darchei chesed heim l'kabbalas hamuat kimeruba ach lo misnagdim umachishim mamish midas hadin ki kvar yesh bohem tam hagun lahachshiv osam. So again, essentially what Ramchal explains is that Rachamim doesn't totally blunt din, but what divine compassion does is it gives you a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of space in the world of din to be able to go ahead and work things through and work things out with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ach she yivachu averos below klum. But to think for a moment that certain averos could just go unrecognized, or certain averos could be committed without repercussions, or just will not be looked at all, so that's not true. That's simply not true. So this is very important. Ramchal says Rachamim, divine compassion, could work within the construct of din, strict justice, to give you breathing room, to give you kind of negotiating room with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But to say that Rachamim goes ahead and makes it as if Hashem will never look at your averos, that's not true. That's not true, because that would totally obliterate din, and that's not true. He says, so again, so the Ramchal writes, if you don't utilize midas harachamim, so in other words, if you don't utilize that breathing room, then midas hadin, divine justice, comes along and exacts punishment, or exacts retribution, whatever that retribution is. Nimtza she'in la'adam harotz lifkoach eina pitoy sheyuchal espatos bo levilti yizar masav tachlis hazirus didaktik bam tachlis hadiktuk hein kol heina hash. So therefore, again, the Ramchal says that A person who wants to delude himself, remember, all of this is in the midah of zihirus, and the whole essence of zihirus is to be attentive. Why should I be attentive? Because my actions matter. Every single action I do is weighed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So while it's true that midas harachamim goes ahead and gives me a little bit of wiggle room, a little bit of breathing room, negotiation room to work things through, when I act in the wrong way, din is always there. Din is always there. So a person who goes in and tries to convince himself that he could do whatever he wants, she could do whatever he wants, and there's no ramifications for one's actions, that's just the Yetzer Hara enticing the person to be blind to their actions. Hein kol leila hashkafos sheyashkif aleim adam v'yikne bam midas hazihirus vadai in Bal Nefeshu. Says Ramchal, these are all very important pieces. Everything we've learned are the necessary tenets and necessary pieces in order for a person to truly inculcate within themselves the midah of Zehirus. Wonderful. We'll stop over here today. Mazel tov on the completion of Parak Dalid. In Meretz Hashem, on the last days of Yom Tiv, we will begin Parak Hey. Wishing everyone a wonderful day, Piska Tava, good Kvittel, and Mazel tov on the completion of the Parak.